Call to order the Finance and Administration Committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Alderman Art Woods.
Here.
Alderman Crielli.
Here.
Alderman Carr.
Here.
Alderwoman Fonseca.
Here.
Fasano.
Here.
Alderwoman Ames.
Here.
Alderman Artie Woods.
Here.
And Alderman Catalano.
Here.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January 8th, 2026 for the Finance and Administration Committee.
Second.
Are there any comments, questions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. For tonight, I have one report and recommendation. It is the fiscal year 2027 CIP discussion. Director Wilson, I believe you might have a few things to say about that.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Couple,
Yeah,
yes, here and there.
take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to start off a little bit differently this year. We have some new members on the board, and also perhaps a good time for a refresher for people that have been on the board for a while. So I'm going to go through a few slides, just kind of explaining some of the terminology and kind of the methodology behind this. So I'm going to go through that first, and then we'll get into the project sheets as we normally would.
Wonderful.
The first question, is why do we do a CIP? So planning is prudent for an organization, and it's a GFOA best practice. They actually have a number of best practices on capital planning. And again, it's...
This is Jason calling from McGrath Bank here, Westmont.
Get back to you.
It's prudent from a planning standpoint and a fiscal management standpoint. You may recall a couple years ago, we went from a 5-year CIP and expanded it out to a 10-year CIP and kind of redid the formatting of the plan at that time. Also, from a prudent standpoint, it allows for project alignment, ensuring to the greatest extent possible that above ground and below ground projects happen at the same time. A great example is you resurface a street this year, and then next year, Public Works goes, hey, we need to replace the water mains over there. Okay, well, had we known that last year, now we have to tear up a street that we just paved this year, the next year, because the planning wasn't there. I'm not saying that Mr. Lang does that. That's just an example of the prudence in planning, trying to align projects so you're not going back and redoing work you've already done. Obviously, emergencies happen and things happen, but again, to the greatest extent possible, you try and align projects, get some efficiencies and of scale, and some synergies in projects. Also, similar location, if you notice over the years, the street resurfacing program, a lot of it will all be in Ward 4. The next year it'll be in Ward 1. It'll be all in Ward 2. Again, this is for mobilization for the contractors so that they're not having to move their equipment all over the place. Again, get some economies of scale, perhaps some better pricing on mobilization, things of that nature. Also identify needs, so you can look and identify the needs of the community. Do we need to do more roads? Do we need to do more stormwater projects? Is there water and sewer projects? You may recall when we did the budget primer meeting back in December, if you look at the CIP from when we first did the first couple CIPs, it was very, very road heavy, very road intensive for a number of years to get a lot of the roads resurfaced and caught up. Lately it's been a little more stormwater heavy. Now we're hitting the water and sewer mains, we're doing the bridge. So you can, as you go through the CIP over the last 15 years, you can kind of see the identified needs of the community kind of changing as projects get completed and built out. And then, again, times change, people change, boards change, but you can kind of go through and see what the community needs and what it puts an emphasis on over time going through that plan. And again, the fiscal management, that way you can plan ahead for all of those things up there. Going through some of the revenues, primary revenue source is the non-home rule sales tax. That was voted in via referendum a number of years ago by the electorate. That is a function of sales tax. Not everything that is sales tax eligible is eligible for the non-home rule sales tax. So you'll see in the budget that this number is a little bit lower than the traditional sales tax number, but it is predominantly the same, but again, a little bit less just based upon the nature of how the rules of taxation are written for the state. Then there's the transfers. So the biggest ones in this year are going to be the MFT, and a lot of that's the Rebuild Illinois project. So that was money that the state gave us during COVID, that they used the COVID funds from the federal government. They passed a fairly sizable capital bill and disperse that money to the communities and counties to rebuild Illinois, rebuild the infrastructure of the state. And again, though, with that, it is, we do have to follow the MFT rules for eligible projects. So there is a very finite and strict list of projects and costs that are eligible under the MFT rules per state statute. Another big one in there, especially for the water tower, is the TIF. And again, that's for eligible costs, eligible project costs, again, per state statute following the TIF Act. Land sales, currently we have the 2 sites that we're looking to move on from, to sell. And we did have 3, but earlier this year, last year in '25, we sold the parcel next door to Holiday for the construction of the apartment building. So currently have the Central in Irving and then commercial in Wooddale. And then intergovernmental cooperation. In the plan, there are 2 projects that we're doing with the Forest Preserve. There's the bike path and then one of the stormwater projects. So there is some intergovernmental cooperation in these as well that helps save costs for probably both entities and also therefore the residents of the community. So then going further into revenue, some of the grants, some of these fun acronyms. So you'll see STP R and B. So the R and B is Road and Bridge, and then it's Surface Transportation Program. So this is federal funds that gets dispersed to the state, who then disperses it to the Council of Government, the COG. For us, that's the DuPage Mayors and Managers, so the DMMC. They then have a funding formula and a scoring system for who gets awarded those funds on an annual basis. You'll see the project for the multi-use paths is ITEP, so the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program. That's predominantly state funding, but there's also federal funding in there, and that's managed and released by IDOT. Then there's the DECIO funding, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. The DECIO grant this year is for the stormwater project, the Ward 1 stormwater project, so that's managed by DECIO. And then there's FEMA, we shall know FEMA, and then IEMA is the Illinois Emergency Management. Typically, those will come in for disasters, like if there's a big flood, massive rainstorm, things of that nature. And then also IEMA has helped us with some flood property buyouts along the creek over the years. They have the pre-mitigation funds where we try to buy homes and properties before there's a disaster. So they sometimes have mitigation funds that are available to us, which last time that had, I think we bought 3 properties under that program to help kind of, again, move people away from the creek to help prevent home flooding and things of that nature. So the different types of projects that you're going to see, it's broken into 3 categories. So there's a transportation category, and these are typically projects that are at or below grade, roads, sidewalks, the bridge. Stormwater's in there, because again, stormwater typically is a below grade project for the conveyance of the stormwater, even though it's theoretically not, you're not writing any modality of transportation over it, but since it's below grade, it's put in the transportation category. The non-transportation, those are typically above grade, so you'll see the buildings, the facade program, citywide initiatives, things of that nature. We'll get into those more specifically in here, but typically those are going to be the above grade types of projects. And then the water and sewer system, there's the potable water system and the sanitary conveyance system, the sewer plant, things of that nature. It's also included in the CIP, there is some debt service. So the debt service itself is not a project, but it provided the funding for a project. Specifically to the CIP currently, the IEPA loan and the 2020A alternate revenue bonds were for the Ward 2 and 3 stormwater project. And then we have the line of credit that was for the land acquisition, that as we sell the parcels that we own, we are paying off that line of credit. So when we get into the project sheets, you'll see that there was that $1 million kind of bubble in payments this year in the line of credit. That was a result of selling the property next door. We paid down the line of credit. So if we sell either the other 2 properties, we'll continue to pay down the line of credit until it's paid off. As you're going through the document, you might see all these kind of funky letters, like, hey, what is this? So the construction of it's going to be TNT, or WWW. So and then after that, the BRG's bridge, stormwater, street. We try to make them fairly intuitive, but there's the listing of the projects that are in there. And then the numbers that are after the projects are just a crude counter. So, if you see Street 19, that's the 19th Street project sheet that we've had since we've been doing the CIP. So there's no real magic to the number after it, aside from just a crude counter of the project count of that type of project. In the back of the book, there are, this year, are 3 unfunded projects. So there are projects that have been identified as something that would be nice to have, but at this time, there's no funding available or not a grant available for it. So we are, always looking for grant opportunities to probably or possibly get one of those projects done, or just future funding if we want to move one of those projects up. And for those that have been on the board for a while, no, sometimes a project can go from unfunded to funded. Sometimes a project can go from funded to unfunded. If the council doesn't see, value in the project for this year, we can always move those projects off and reclassify them as we go through the document. So the cash flow projections, the pro forma, so we take the estimated revenues, the estimated expenses, and again, caveat that the actual cost is determined at the time of bid and bid award. Align all the projects to the best known timing, again, trying to line up the underground, above ground work, the work from a location standpoint. And all that goes into the cash flow pro forma. And so it identifies the proposed mix of projects, if that is financially feasible, given the above inputs of the estimated revenues and estimated expenses of these projects. If when we get done, I look at that page and there's a lot of red on it, well, then we got to do something different. So then we realign projects, we get together as a team, and we rework the CIP. And again, project revenue costs are subject to change based upon bid results, grant availability, and again, necessity to the community. So this is what the governmental pro forma looks like. So again, the first column, the revenue, that's all of the estimated revenues added together for that particular year. I believe that's on page 10 of the document. The pro forma is actually on, page 12 of the document. The revenues are on page 10, the summary. I'll pull this up in a second so we can walk through it, but just this is what it's going to look like. The expenses summary, that's on page 11 of the document. The net change is just revenues less expenses. And then really the last column there, that ending balance, that's the line where we're saying, okay, is this feasible? If everything holds relative to what we expect the revenues to be and what we expect the cost of these projects to be, do we have enough money to pay for the projects in this particular year? And so as you can see, it's $417,000 to the good. So again, all things being equal, we would say that if things come in as expected, we would have the funds to construct the projects in the CIP as presented. Again, going forward to the water fund, the proprietary pro forma, same scenario, same construction. They're just looking through this. And that's all I have for that before then we'll move into the actual document, unless there's any questions on anything that was in there.
Anyone have any questions? No? I guess we can move on to we can take a break for a minute. Thank you for all those explanations. It's very helpful.
Really? Oh, boy. Okay, here we go. All right, so getting into the document. The first number of pages, as you know, is the budget message, the letter of transmittal for the CIP. So again, just scrolling through. So here on page 6, we have the summary of the projects. Again, this is similar information that's presented later, but this is just the roll-up of that information consolidated into one table. And this is over the 10-year period of the CIP. So it's not this, don't worry that this 100 million is just 1 year. This is over the 10 years. So over the 10 years, we have about 10.5 million in debt service, 7.5 million in transfers, 28 million in transportation projects, 8 million in non, and about 45 million in water and sewer projects, as presented this evening. Going through the funding sources, again, the non-home rule, the grants, these were the ones that we just showed in the other slide deck. Just wanted to add some context to those before we got into this. Moving on, again, here are the 3 unfunded projects. We'll get to those later in the presentation, but again, these are the 3 that are there. So that's our calendar, and we are here on the 22nd. So getting into the revenues, one of the comments from the last couple years of the CIP was the sheets on the front end of the document were a little confusing. There was a lot going on. So what we did this year was we did a summary of the revenues. The detail sheets start in the very back on, I believe it's 49. Bear with me a second. Yeah, the detail sheets start back on 49 that break down everything in a little bit more of a granular nature. But again, just from a presentation standpoint, we thought doing this summary presentation was a little bit cleaner for everybody. So you can see here we have about the 3.8 million in the non-home rule sales tax. Utility tax, you may recall last year during the budget conversations, we moved that all to the general fund out of the CIP, so that's why this is zero going forward. The grants, again, if you go back to the back end, you'll see the different grants. You know, there's an ITEP grant, a DECIO grant, SDPR, SDPB, so there's a number of grants flowing through this year's document. The MFT, again, that's going to be our match on projects, which we'll get to that in a minute, but that's our match for projects. A little bit of TIF funding for one of the road projects, and then some other funding that didn't fit into one of these convenient buckets on the front end. Going down on the water side, again, the static funding from the water and sewer fund. The TIF funding is related to the water tower. This federal grant from last year was Addison Road Water Main. And then out in the future years, we are anticipating being able to put some money from the CIP into the water and sewer fund. That's really to help out with the South Treatment Plant project that you see out here in 35. This estimated 22 million in debt is specifically allocated for the South Treatment Plant project. Again, going on to the expenditure summary. Again,
Alderman Artwood.
Thank you. Just one question. I didn't sink into my head. Where did we roll up the utility tax to?
Director Wilson,
sure, into the general fund.
please continue.
Thank you. Yeah, so again, similar to the revenues, we consolidated the expenditures onto this one grid here. Again, the details at the back of the document, I believe this is starting on page 51. So again, we have the estimated expenses for the line of credit, the debt, which again, that's related to the Ward 2 and 3 stormwater project, the transfer to the general fund, and then the bump of $1 million in 32 is that transfer to the water fund. Transportation projects, non-transportation projects, and then other, that's the accounting for our lovely leases per one of the GASB pronouncements, so you don't really have to worry about that column, but from a bookkeeping standpoint, we have to account for it. And again, the water and sewer, and then this one's a little bit easier, water projects, wastewater projects. Moving forward, again, this is the pro forma that we saw in the slide deck. Again, showing, again, all things being equal, end the year with about $418,000 balance, showing that there would be enough money in the general capital projects fund with the grants as presented to cover the costs for all the projects in fiscal 27. Same for the water fund.
Alderman Currielli.
Are all these costs in today's dollar value, or do they account for inflation?
Director Wilson.
For the most part, they're in today's dollars.
Please continue.
So getting through that, unless there's any question on any of the summary screens, we'll start to get into the project sheets. I just want to make sure.
I think we're good.
Okay. So this is the debt service sheet. Again, we've kind of covered what this is going to pay for, but the line of credit, the IEPA loan, and the 2020A for the stormwater projects. I would just make a quick note that in this year's CIP, we did add what the budget for the CIP was for this year in this line here on all pages. And then you can see what the anticipated results are in the line below. Because before, we didn't have that budget number, and sometimes these numbers jumped around a little bit. So you can see hey, we expected that this was a debt service and that's what we paid. So it's a little more pertinent on some of the project sheets, but just wanted to point that out, that that is an addition to this year's
Mayor, please.
document.
Brett, what is that on 2030, 700,000 for? What's it put
Director
in
Wilson.
for?
Go ahead.
Sure. So after the $1 million payment to the line of credit this year, there's approximately 700,000 left on that. And so we anticipate, if not before, that would be the year that we pay off the line of credit, if not before. So, but if we sell the other properties that we have, that we're looking to sell, then we would pay it off sooner than that. But that's just a placeholder based on roughly when the line of credit would expire, that we'd have to have it paid off.
Okay, please continue.
Just moving on to the transportation summary of expenses. The categories in transportation, we have bridge projects, stormwater, and street projects. And then a bit further down, these are the pages that they're listed on. So we'll move on into the Elizabeth Bridge project. So I think we're all theoretically aware of this. This is the replacement of the bridge on Elizabeth Drive over Salt Creek. So worked with Mr. Lang on this, and this is the current spend down timeline on this project based upon most recent information he's gotten from the engineers, and I think in IDOT and their review process.
Alderman Carr.
Just a quick question.
Let's,
Bless you.
Do you know when this project's gonna start? By chance?
Director Wilson or Director
Defer to,
Lang?
defer to Director Lang, yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So right now, we're targeting a July 2026 state letting. We are still working with the gas pipeline company that runs through there. They recently told us that we won't be able to straddle it with the bridge like we had originally hoped, so we're going to have to relocate that gas pipeline. We're trying to see if the IDOT funding will cover that. So there's a chance that it gets pushed from that July letting. And if that's the case, it's kind of unlikely that construction would begin this year. But you know, the stars align and we're able to get on the letting in July. It's possible that we start late this year and then complete it over the winter and into next spring.
Mayor, please.
What about the path? Is that still in the spring, or is that being changed?
So the path from the Forest Preserve driveway entrance east to Wooddale Road and then north to Oak Brook School will begin in the spring. That's a separate project from the bridge. The portion of the path from Addison Road to the Forest Preserve drive entrance, which will cross over the bridge, will be in conjunction with the bridge project.
Follow up? Good. Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Yeah, and just want to point out, Mr. Lang kind of alluded to it, in the funding information there. Currently, this project is going to be 80% funded by the SDPB funds, and then 20% will be the local match from our MFT Rebuild Illinois funds. So that's good, and hopefully the SDPB will help chip in for some of that line relocation.
So I have a question on that too. So if we're not able to do what we had planned on with the gas line and moving that, that seems like that's going to be a lot more money. And when will we know pricing on that, and if the grant will cover that, the amount?
We're hoping to have that information in the next couple months. We're working on the design of the relocation right now. The gas pipeline originally wanted to do the design themselves, and there was going to be some overlap in work performed between our engineers and theirs. So we're trying to get them to allow us to design the relocation, and that way it's covered under the project. And IDET usually contributes for utility relocations, but we still have to ensure that.
Okay, so then you'll come back to the council with whatever the results of that are?
Correct.
And let us know? Oh,
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
All right, the next project is that trail extension. This is the one Director Lang was mentioning from the Forest Preserve entryway over to Wooddale Road. That's already been bid, correct? That's already, yeah, so, okay, so pretty much once the weather breaks, they will commence work on that project.
Okay.
And this one is ITEP funding and then MFT funding as the match for that as well. The next project is Stormwater Master Plan. So this particular year is the, you may recall a couple of years ago, we applied for that grant to basically combine the first 3 phases of the Ward 1 stormwater program into one project. So that's, we did get that GIGO grant from DECIO for that. And I know Mr. Lang is waiting to get the go-ahead on that, get that bid. And then most of this work should be completed this calendar year for that Ward 1 project.
Okay. Please continue.
Here's a list. There's not any specific dates put to these yet, but here's a list of other identified potential future projects. And again, some of these are going to be, you know, we're going to try to do some with the Forest Reserve if it makes sense, or again, try to align these with other like road resurfacing programs or other projects we're doing. Going on to the street sidewalk resurfacing program. We spent about 1.9 million this year. I think about half of that is related to Middle Drive. So it's going to be the portion basically from 390 up to Devon. Mr. Lang can correct me if I'm wrong, but last year it was going to be from Devon all the way to Wooddale Road. But with the ComEd project, going to be pretty much from 390 over to Wooddale Road. We pulled back on doing that. Again, we didn't want to do the project and have ComEd come in the next year and rip up the whole project. So, but Mr. Lang, they did reapply for the STP funding for the northern part of that leg. Part of that street is in the TIF, so part of that leg from the middle drive portion is going to be covered by the STP funding, and the other part will be covered by TIF funding. So the only thing that we're going to be paying for out of the CIP is the non-middle drive parts, so the Welter, Lincoln, and Robin portion would be paid for out of the non-home rule sales tax. The rest would be, like I said, STP and TIF funding.
Alderman Catalano.
Yeah, so when is that project going to start for fiscal year 2027 for the streets and on Walter and Potter?
Director Lang.
It was just on the state letting last Friday, so we've got our contractor. We're going to get that contract in place, and depending on their schedule, we hope to start right after the weather breaks. Plants open in April.
Okay. And is that full reconstruction or just paving?
It's going to be repaving in large part along Welter Drive. There's going to be some full-depth patching, specifically along the curb lines where it's starting to fail.
But there's no upgraded sewers over there. I guess we don't no need to upgrade the sewers.
So we'll look to extend the sewers.
Okay.
So every property has an access point to the sewer like we did on Apollo in that area.
Okay. For some pumps, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Please continue.
And as you can see in here, 28 is the last year of our current study. After this, Director Lang and his team will get together and compile a list of the next number of years worth of roads that are going to be resurfaced. This next one is probably mine and the manager's favorite sheet in the entire document. It's the the elusive closeout payment request from the state from the intersection project that ended in 2026. So we're still waiting on the final closeout invoice from the state for the intersection project. This has been the estimate from the engineers pretty much from the beginning, so we're carrying this on. Again, we haven't heard either way if when we're getting it and what the number is, but again, we know something's coming at some point in theory from the state, so we have to carry this as an item until such a time as we actually get an invoice from them. Yeah. So But again, it's only been, 9 years, so. Next one is the Irving Park and Central Signalization. So again, putting that, the signal and then necessary intersection improvements there at Central and Irving. This project is expected to be paid for all out of MFT funds, as this is an MFT eligible project. There's no grant funding at this time on that, but again, we do have the MFT funds to cover this project, so.
And are we on schedule for that to actually be done? We have our permits and we're ready to go? Checking.
So we submitted for our final approval from IDOT. We were waiting for review from 2 of their departments there. We haven't heard back in months, so we decided just to submit the final documents for approval, and maybe that'll jog things along. We're hoping to have that very soon and then be able to bid it out and start in spring.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, please.
Yeah. You said IDOT, right? They're the same ones that held up Elizabeth Drive before they even looked at it for a year?
Correct.
Okay.
Please continue.
Sure. So the next page, next project sheet is the preventative maintenance program, preventive roadway maintenance program. So this includes sectional patching. So these are going to be smaller, more isolated sections that need to be paved versus the entire street that's in the street resurfacing program sheet. Crack sealing program, rejuvenation, the reclamite, and then also pavement marking. And I know Mr. Lang has a program and rotation for those types of things, but so this is what is included in that $200,000 for the preventative maintenance program.
So I have a question too about the reclamite. I know we've had some issues about that this last reclamite season, if you will. And were we looking to change that application at all for something else? Or
Yeah,
is
we're
it
not planning
working?
on doing a reclamite application this year at all. We are planning to maybe shift focus to more surface treatments, like a chip seal or a microfogging, something that's more like a seal coat that is a surface treatment, makes the street look better and buys us a few more years before we can resurface it. We just weren't seeing, the bang for the buck that we're getting. We're not able, if you're doing reclamite, a rejuvenation product like that, you have to apply it within the first 3 years, and then you really should apply it every 5 years after that to really reap the full benefits, and that's just not reasonable for our budget. So we're looking at other alternatives to how we can prolong the life of our streets.
And that would start this year?
Correct.
This season, I guess, in 2026?
Yeah, we're gonna start with the patching program. We usually do all our utility repairs from over the winter time. There's a number on Irving Park Road, and then some other areas that we've identified, and then see how much budget we have left over for crack sealing and pavement striping, and then the surface treatment as well.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, please.
No, he answered it.
Oh,
He answered my question before I
Perfect.
even asked it.
Alderman Artwood,
How long were we doing the reclamite?
Director Wright.
Since before I was here, I couldn't give you an exact number, but it's been at least 7 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6 or 7.
It started around, the mid-2010s is when it really started catching on with a lot of communities in this area.
So the alternate system or process that you're gonna use, is that better?
I guess
Equal to?
it depends on how you look at it. Reclamite is a great product if you use it correctly and continue to use it. Reclamite, the difference is it gets into the binder layer of the asphalt, so it stops the sub-degradation as opposed to just treating the surface and buying yourself a few more years. For our budget and for our community, it seems like it would make more sense to do the surface treatment and try to buy ourselves a few more years on these roads before we resurface them, because we're really not getting the full benefit of the Reclamite.
Follow-up?
And again, so is one, and I get one's expensive, but if the other one isn't as good, I guess I'm asking what's the point of doing that one? What are we getting, does that give us 1 year, and doing reclamite properly gets us 10 years, right? So what's my return on investment? That's what I'm looking at?
Director
Essentially,
I don't know if you can answer that question right now, but.
Yeah, essentially, I mean, Reclamite, if you do it early on and then continue reapplication throughout the life, it's supposed to extend the life of the street from, say, 20 to 25 years to 25 to 30. So you're getting an extra 5 to 10 years out of your roadways before you have to resurface it. The idea is you spend, $1 in the first 10 years to save yourself $10 in the last 10 years, essentially.
Follow-up?
So, yes, thank you. So within that, is that going to reduce the other maintenance? The streets just falling apart, getting the potholes, right? Being that the Reclamite can penetrate, doesn't it help to thwart that from happening also?
In the long term, yes.
Yeah. So there's multiple things happening, not only the longevity, thank you, of the road, but the reducing the amount of maintenance, i.e. potholes and other crack sealing and things that might. I'm just trying to figure out what's more beneficial. To spend something because we can't afford the other one, it's almost as, well, we might not, maybe we just don't do anything, right? I don't know how we figure that out.
Director
Yeah.
Lane?
I mean, Reclamite, we've listened to other towns that have used it too, and, they're saying that they're not seeing the benefit of, a few other towns that I spoke to are stopping use of it now. They literally had instances where they reclamited half the road and didn't reclamite the other, and there was really no change over, 10 years in the degradation factor, so.
Right.
It was kind of the hot product at the time, but.
I would argue, as the manufacturer probably would, that migration from the side not treated is deteriorating the side that is treated. That would be the same in roofing, streets, and all kinds of, anyway, so. We could go all night on that subject. We can talk offline.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
Thank you. So I believe that is it for the transportation type projects. So we're getting into the non-transportation, so topics are lighting, city operations, public safety, and then citywide initiative projects. Again, a listing of those projects and their respective page numbers are listed here. Moving on to streetlight installation. You'll see that there's currently nothing budgeted out in the out years for streetlight installation. I believe it was last year, 2 years ago, the direction was to kind of pull back on this a little bit, and if people came forward with the survey or a request, or there was a public safety need, that we would reassess at that time. But currently, there's no plans for, I guess, forced light installation at this point in time. I don't think, Ms. Lee, you don't have any open surveys or requests or anything, petitions? No. Yeah. So there's nothing open that Mr. Lang has at this time, and so that's why we have zeros in there for the foreseeable future.
Thank you.
IT and infrastructure plan. Have some numbers here in the first 3 years. I guess kind of the big one in fiscal 27, as we were discussing, probably heard during the City Hall project, is the fob system. So we did pull that out of the City Hall project and made it a standalone project. It was in the IT budget, standalone project. Anyways, we were going to lump it in from an efficiency standpoint, but when we got to looking at it, it was determined that it was a City Hall project and a police department project and a Metro project and a wastewater treatment plant project. So it didn't make much sense at that point to be just a City Hall project. So we pulled it out as a standalone project for Mr. Stenson to implement this budget year. Likely, once the City Hall project is complete, presuming it gets approved, we would then do the fob system at that point after that. So it'll be a post-construction project, and it's, again, pick up all the other facilities that are not all on the same system at this point in time. And just going forward here, here's a list of the potential projects. Again, with the fob system, should be in 27 as well, and then some of the out years there, some upgrades to the clock tower sign and component units. And then we'll have to look at a computer replacement program again at some point here in the near-ish future as well. So that was done before Mr. Stenson started, so we want to stay on top of that. So that is out there.
Please continue.
City Hall, facilities maintenance, just one quick note, and the narrative here, this fob access system that will be removed in the final draft, again, as that is in the IT project sheet. That just didn't get scrubbed in this draft version. As we've discussed, as you've seen, between the estimated number for this year and next year is that $1.6 million number that we've been discussing at the past couple of committee meetings when the City Hall project has come forward. We had a meeting earlier this week with the architect and the construction firm, and they are going to prepare the final documents, get everything out to bid, and we're thinking, what, was it, Jeff, early March? The March committee will have those bid results to come back to you relative to this project.
Thank you.
And then some of these out years, again, depending on how the bids come in and how the project flows, you may recall there was a couple of bid alternates, perhaps for the washrooms or exec session room, whatever. So we are putting a little money in these, in the out year or two for those projects if that is something the council wants to move forward with in a future fiscal year. The camera system and upgrade expansion program. This is one that was in this year's budget. But again, with some of the uncertainty with this building and a couple of other factors going on, doesn't look like it's going to get done this year. So in discussion with the PD and Mr. Stenson, have just re-budgeted this project for next fiscal year to get this project completed.
So was that part of the building renovation, the cameras? Are these the same cameras that were part of that? Or this is completely separate than the City Hall building?
Correct, yeah, it's a separate project. It would be for more, some of the public works facilities, the lift stations, some other, I guess we'll say critical infrastructure facilities around town. And I believe I'd have to defer to Mr. Stenson or the chief, but I believe also some in the police station and around in Metro and stuff like that. So it's not the City Hall, it's pretty much cameras elsewhere in the city. But I'd have to defer to them for exact.
So is it adding cameras or replacing cameras?
I believe both, but I'll defer to.
Yeah, so, yeah, that would be adding cameras to our critical infrastructures for water and SCADA, and then also augmenting some of our cameras, possibly with FLAC as well. And then also adding cameras as part of the City Hall remodel on this side as well. Currently, we don't have any cameras that record this side of the building, so.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Artie Woods?
The part about monitoring major intersections along Irving Park and Wooddale corridors, rail crossings would be possible. I'm assuming that's not baked into this number, but if we're doing that, or if we're looking at doing that, is that something that is a proactive camera where a human or software is monitoring Irving Park Road throughout the day, every day, or is this a reactive where an incident happens, we go back and we can, what are we looking at recording on Irving Park?
Yeah, so with our current license plate vendor, FLAC, they also have a surveillance system that can augment the current FLAC cellular infrastructure. So we're looking at investigating, looking at FLAC's, they call them PTZ cameras. So it's a pan, tilt, and zoom camera that can be remotely controlled and monitored from the police department.
Who would be controlling that? Just someone at the PD watching that every day? Or that's what I guess I'm getting at. Is it something where there's an accident at Wooddale and Irving, we're going back to review it, or is someone watching?
Yeah, more review. We don't
Gotcha.
have the personnel to sit there and watch the cameras all day.
That's what I'm,
So,
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Please continue. Thank you. Yep.
We're on the facade improvement program. As you may recall, last year we put no money in the pot, or 2 years ago we decided to not fund this program because there wasn't a lot of participation. And then magically, when we put no money in the program, everybody wants to partake in the program, which is, I guess, it's a good problem to have, that people want to beautify their buildings. So you'll see the rather specific number of 459, 448 in there. So that includes the 200,000 for OSTEs, the DIASTEs, And then the 59,448 for the property in the industrial park, that was approved. And then in speaking with Ms. Springer, she has a couple of businesses that are likely, have told her they're likely to come in for funding. And so she's not 100% sure on the timing, if it's going to be this fiscal year or next fiscal year, 1 and 1 perhaps, or half and half. So that's why we put some additional funding out in 28 and 29, was based on the feedback that she's gotten from some businesses in town and their likelihood of wanting to participate in this program.
Alderman Currielli.
I'm sorry, I want to go back to the cameras and ask a question. Is all that camera data FOIA-able?
Director Stenson.
Sure. So just like our body-worn camera, in-car video, and surveillance, current surveillance camera surrounding the PD and also in our lockup are subject to FOIA.
So we're adding a lot of extra cameras so that it multiplies the job. Do we also take for account in the expenses that we would have to incur to provide data?
I mean, I guess that's the nature of the unfunded mandate of FOIA. FOIA requires us to be responsive in providing that data, and that data then has to be redacted possibly and then provided to per FOIA law. So yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. Alderman Artwood.
Yeah, one quick statement to that, only if you have it. And I'll move on to, so now what, I wasn't the biggest fan of the flock cameras, and, but we said, okay, and as we'll call it a static camera, capturing plates and warning people, I went, okay, well, I can see that. Now you're saying we're gonna make those dynamic so that they're all tilt, turn, zoom, again, which is going into, that was a statement that just made. Is that correct or not correct?
It's a possibility. It's a future project that we're investigating to augment our current CCD and surveillance for the city of Wooddale.
But for the intersection cameras, station infrastructure cameras, we'll call them.
I think if you're asking if we're looking to put a live video camera on every flock location, the answer is no.
Okay.
This is more for like the existing RTA cameras that are 20 years old.
So our infrastructure cameras?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
not, because the
No.
way it was said, I like.
If there's intersections along major routes, Wooddale Road, Irving Park Road, not necessarily residential areas, we do have the option, Flock has the option that we could put static cameras, live video on those locations, and that may be beneficial depending on the location.
So are we gonna install, because there's two different systems, and then as we go down this topic, obviously the Flock system costs us money, right? We have license fees, camera fees, maintenance fees. I would assume as you upgrade those cameras, they become dynamic, right? We've got a data piece that IT department's got to deal with, then we deal with the FOIA piece. But with the license and maintenance piece that increases on that. So again, as we talk about money, as much as those all are neat things to have, at a certain point, we got to stop spending money.
So any additional cameras, they wouldn't replace the existing Flock cameras, they would be in addition to it. The existing Flock cameras only capture the license plates. This is an option that Flock now has for live video if we wanted to replace some of our other cameras or add new ones. I'm not sure the name of the ones we're using now.
Yeah, so currently our system is an access-based system, but those cameras are aged. Currently on our pedestrian bridge across Wooddale Road, that current camera is a mixture of PTZ and fixed, and currently the PTZ portion is not functional. That camera's end of life. So we're looking at replacing either with another access or possibly the Flock technology.
Right. And so two concerns. One, the amount of cameras, infrastructure, that's fine, and two, the cost, right? And storage and all the things that go along with it, including once you collect the data, then the data is FOIAble. Like I said, if we don't have it, you can't FOIA it. So,
yeah, our current policy is with our body-worn cameras and in-car video is 90-day storage. And then we follow the Record Retention Act for the state of Illinois as well. So that's our ongoing policy. for video retention. Yeah, because ultimately, it's not infinitesimal. You couldn't have, 2 years worth of storage and the cost and the fees involved. But currently, we have a 90-day storage policy for the city of Wooddale.
And we have 90 days on, I don't know what the number is, but we'll call it 12 cameras. And we want to go to, I don't, again, know the number, 24 cameras. So we're going to double the storage. So all I'm saying is, at a certain point, we have to stop. I love the ability to get bigger and better, but we can only generate so much revenue to pay for bigger and better.
Sure.
That's all.
Alderwoman Fonseca.
Is there a cost estimate for the storage that's required for the retention policy?
Director Stinson or Director Wilson?
So currently, we store on-site, so we have a video storage system for our current CCTV, Metra, pedestrian bridge, in-car video, and body-worn camera. So we're investigating possible cloud storage for maintenance and ease and upgradability versus on-prem. And then that replacement schedule requires uplifting new hardware, it's transferring data. So that part of, as you well know, uplifting hardware and software is more difficult than versus a cloud infrastructure. But obviously, you didn't pay for that service as well, too.
Mayor, please.
Just to be clear, so on the cameras, we're replacing Metra, the bridge, and we could allow infrastructure. Is that all included in this price already, or just curious?
Director
I thought
Stinson.
we were just replacing, but are we also adding at the same time? Is that what's going on?
So we do have budget dollars allocated currently, but the upgrading was an investigative part of this to see what makes sense as far as on-prem storage versus cloud storage and technology. So we don't have numbers for the FLOC technology yet.
Follow up.
Forget the FLOC stuff.
Okay.
The RTA, the bridge, and then you talk about would allow for expansion. My question is, the price here, is that
That's,
the treatment plant and that stuff
yeah, that's,
included? I'm not talking about adding the flock or changing.
yeah, that's included in those budgeted numbers, correct.
Okay. So we're talking about extra cameras for city-owned, but not, and he's just said 90-day storage the city keeps on any of those things, right? Okay. Just wanna-
Thank you. Please continue.
I gave it the facade sheet, so, I guess any questions on the facade sheet?
Oh, Alderman Currielli.
Yeah, the 459, is that for projects that have already been approved?
Director Wilson.
259 are for approved projects. The other 200 is a mix of potential projects.
Okay, thank you.
Director Wilson. Please continue.
Sure, thank you. Moving on, I know this is, I think, the manager's favorite sheet, the SOC and Rail Coalition. So again, there's some money programmed in here. We've been right around 30,000 the last couple of years for SOC, for O'Hare, and the rail, the CPKC coalition. So I would defer any questions on this to the manager.
Oh, good. Please continue.
Again, as I mentioned, I think it was on the previous deck, some property flood buyout. Currently, there's nothing budgeted for this year. Mr. Lang and his team haven't gotten any notifications that there's any funding available for some of these property buyouts. But we keep this sheet in here as just something that could come up should that funding become available. So we kind of keep it on everybody's radar. I don't think there's a lot of houses in the critical flood with plains at this point, but I think there's still a couple left over there. So if and when that funding becomes available, this is where it would land in a future CIP sheet.
Please continue.
Yeah, so the rear yard drainage program, the program was updated, was it last year, a year and a half ago, to allow for greater funding for the residents that would apply for this program. I did look a couple of years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, we had 4 participants. I believe it was last year there was 2, and this year, I think I've only seen 1 application fee in there. There might be a second one. So we seem to be about 1 to 2 projects a year for the last, I think it's 2 to 3 years. So presuming they would get the max 10,000, that's where the 20,000 came from, was funding for 2 projects. Obviously, you know, if we get 3 or 4, that'd be a discussion we'd have, and I think we would want to help the residents in that regard and fund that. But just based on the past few years' history of number of projects that have come in, that's why that 20,000 number is there.
Okay, thank you.
The Building Commercial Park planning. As you may recall, was it over the summer, the conversations with Upland for the design of the park. I know there was a number of meetings on that, kind of what was going to go over there, what was it going to look like, things of that nature. So at this time, Ms. Springer and her team have worked with Upland to kind of come up with a model for the construction, I believe, specifically like that amphitheater and cleaning up some of the concrete stuff Mr. Lang and his team could do. But really the for 27, 28, and 29 looked like that would be funding, again, for the amphitheater and some other space. 30 to 32 is simply placeholders based upon future projects that the council may desire to do out there. There's nothing specifically planned at this time for 30 to 32. But again, Ms. Springer and her team, they do have a plan for 27 to 29.
Alderman Artie Woods?
I might be mistaken, but I thought when we talked about this before, we had programmed in 27 through 29, $1 million a year, $3 million over 3 years for this. Did this change since the last?
Director
Or am I
Wilson?
not remembering?
Sure. Well, yes. One of the comments at the strategic planning session was to push the park off for a year or two until there was a little more clear direction on it. And then also just kind of programming in some of the other projects, taking into consideration that there wasn't specific clarity on what was going to go on next door, or 3 next doors at the park. And then with that, the comment at the strategic plan was to kind of push it off, kind of take a pause until there was a little more clarity on it. That's why this did get pushed out a little bit.
So I guess the follow-up is, what can we expect to see happening on that property this calendar year? Is anything happening, or are we not doing anything yet?
Director Wilson?
Yeah. Between Mr. Lang and Ms. Springer, they should.
Thank you.
Director Lang?
So, yeah, starting in the spring, we're gonna start cleaning up what we've been using as our utility lot over there, haul away all the spoils. We'll have our HEOs break out the concrete pads that are there, get all that leveled, and then hopefully, do some of the cleanup around the trees and maybe get that fence out so we can make that a more usable space for concerts this year.
So with the funding that's proposed in the capital improvement plan as it shows right now, we were thinking that this year, before the end of this fiscal year, so by April 30th, we would start the design and development of the first phase. And based on what I heard at the end of July when we approved the final plan, the amphitheater was the most important and the first thing we wanted to tackle. And so design development would start this fiscal year and would continue into next fiscal year. We've programmed $50,000 for the second half of that. That would take us through, we'd complete design development, and then in May of '27, we would start with permitting process and the bidding process. We would anticipate with the funds, the $650,000 in 2028, that money becomes available May 1st of 2027. So we would start construction that fiscal year, probably in October of 2027. And we would start construction and we would complete it probably the following spring, where we would grab the 900,000 from fiscal year 2029. So based on the money that's allocated here, we could accomplish completing the amphitheater portion of the project by 2028, spring, summer.
Okay. And then the funds for cleaning it up, that's just done in-house, so that's not baked in?
Correct. Actually, the pavement removal that Director Lang was talking about would allow us to build the amphitheater without actually planning for stormwater, because the amount of pavement that's being removed is less than the amount of pavement we would be installing, so it doesn't trigger the stormwater requirements. And so that saves us a lot of stormwater planning, engineering, topography, and those types of background studies.
One last quick one. I know with the more condensed basic amphitheater we moved to reduce
Yes.
our spend, what's the typical build time for something like that? I know there's probably a lot of variables, but a month or two, or is it something way more?
So they're planning on working with a prefabricated manufacturer of these types of amphitheaters. They've done that with a number of other projects and a number of other communities. They would go up relatively quickly because it would be prefab. So it's not going to take 3/4 of a year, but it will take us 3/4 of a year to pay for it. So we still would anticipate starting in the fall of 2027 and completing sometime in early 2028.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Springer and Dr. Lang, for that. Please continue.
Right, so that ends the non-transportation section. So moving into the water and sewer projects. Again, the two categories, water and wastewater. This are the projects. Doesn't look like there's a lot of projects, but there's a lot going on here. So we will move on. So this is the water distribution master plan. Again, not a lot going on this particular year. Really a design year, and then looking for more construction in 28. So kind of every other year. So more doing a project, and then designing a project the next year, doing a project. So kind of year on, year off type of thing. To that end, we will update that to 28. Because again, if you look at the project, the timeline and the financing, that doesn't line up. So we'll update that to 28 in the final draft for everybody. There's some of the potential identified projects that we might be looking to construct over the next number of years. The infrastructure tap-on program. So this again is the $5,000 for residents that look to come off of well and or septic onto the city infrastructure. And again, that 20,000 is based on the number we've seen the last few years. So we're estimated to finish at 4 this year. It was, I know 24 is a little, not a nice round number, but their project wasn't that expensive, so they didn't take the whole 5,000. So they're actually 6 in 24, 2 in 25, and we're estimating 4 for this year. So again, just kind of looking at the last number of years, 4 kind of seems to be the magic number historically, so that's where the 20,000 came from, 5,000 times 4 projects.
Thank you.
So the water facilities and equipment upgrades, kind of the big number in this year is the water tower replacement project, which was approved and let, I believe it's going to start in the fall. Is that correct, Mr. Lang? This fall?
The foundation work in April.
Okay, going to start in April, okay. And then also, go to the project sheet, there's the well 5 inspection and repair project that they'll be undertaking. And then you can see some of the programmed projects out. And then some work on the other water tower, the cathodic protection on Water Tower 2, which is up north in the industrial park. So those are the current and future projects for this week.
Alderwoman Fonseca.
Sorry, this is a delayed reaction. Can I go back to the infrastructure tap-on program for just a second? The funding or the budget for that is $20,000 for 2026. Would we be turning people away if they wanted to go ahead and participate in the tap-on program, or would we honor it?
Director Wilson.
Generally speaking, we would not. I think if maybe 20 people came in, we would want to come back and give the council an update and just, make sure we're all on the same page. But yeah, if it wound up being where a fifth person came in, I wouldn't expect that we would tell them no. Kind of like the rear yard drainage again, if a third person came in, we would likely go ahead with that. But again, if, 10, 20 people came in, then we might have to come back and kind of level set with the council. But if it's just one or two, I wouldn't expect that to be the case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
Talking about the water tower, well, 5. I&I program, the inflow infiltration. I'll have to defer to Mr. Gorelli for any questions on this. I believe we're done with the Ward 4 area, moving on to parts of Wards 1 and 2. And I think just based upon Mr. Gorelli and the team, I think they're finding those areas to be in better shape than Ward 4 was. I know Ward 4 was quite the undertaking for him and the team to get through. And so that's why we've seen those numbers come down a little bit in cost. But again, I would defer to Mr. Gorelli for any questions on this program.
Mayor, please.
Yeah, I don't expect the answer tonight, but maybe in the manager's report, how many phases have we started? How many are actually completed? How many are still in process? And then I've noticed there's no water meter in any of this water and sewer fund, so I take it that'll come to the budget. Probably too late to put it in here, right? Okay.
Director Wilson.
Yeah, that's going to come back to a committee meeting. We're targeting, was it February
The 12th.
I think
Yeah,
February 12th. Yeah, so for the meter thing.
Okay, please continue.
Plant and lift station maintenance. So this year, they did the Ash lift station. Going to take a couple years off to the next one, and then kind of the big one out in 35 and 36 is the South Treatment Plant. So if we go over to the project listing, you can see here what, again, what Mr. Lang and Mr. Grelli have programmed in for this particular project sheet.
Okay, please continue.
That is the end of the water and sewer, so just the unfunded projects at this point. So with the Irving Park streetlights, the decorative streetlights, and the parking lot. So we'll go through these fairly quickly. So this would replace the existing light poles and fixtures on Irving Park with the new, was it the spun black aluminum ornamental poles, kind of like is what's in the intersection area now. This project's been funded, unfunded for the past number of years. It kind of bounces back and forth, but currently sits in unfunded at this time for this project.
Okay, please continue. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, please.
Going back to water mains, Irving Park. I know we had a couple blowouts, and years ago, I know we did some of it during the intersection project. How many feet is left on Irving Park? We don't have, maybe another manager's report. We don't need it right now, but we're not gonna have all the answers.
Looked like you had the answer. He was pretty excited. He was pretty excited.
Well, staff has been very anxious tonight. I can see they're all jumping to the microphones.
Exactly. They rehearsed this.
Well, I guess I have a follow-up too on just with the water mains, especially Irving Park and the water main lining technology versus replacement. Are we looking to utilize any of that for this year?
I'm glad you asked. That's exactly what I was going to touch on, actually. Irving Park is a larger main. It's obviously a very busy intersection. It's all within the roadway, a lot of service lines. It's going to be a very expensive proposition to do that by open cut. So that was probably one that we were going to look into lining certain sections of it as time goes on here. And then there's other pockets of the city. Alderwoman Ames can attest. It's right out her front door that need our attention as well. We'll try to loop those into the road program too. But Irving Park Road is the major project that's looming out there.
So is that programmed in to be done with lining, or it's just as needed at this point?
Not quite yet. We have, the next project identified is going to be the water main on Dunlay. That's going to be fiscal year 27, as we're going to be resurfacing that road anyway. And then as we start to develop the road program more, we'll see which areas we could incorporate into that. But Irving Park Road is probably going to need to be addressed sooner than later.
And is that determined based on getting more water main breaks? Because I know there's some streets that have had, I don't know what the limit is to when you decide it needs to move up on the list for replacement. Like how many breaks can it take before it's no good, you know?
Yeah, looking at the water main break history from the last 5 years, Irving Park Road is the highest, and then there's certain other pockets, like I mentioned. And they all seem to be kind of concentrated on that western end of town at the moment, now that we've done some improvements over by Maple. When we did that water main, we did the intersection there as well. So that'll probably be the area that we focus on. No set formula for, how we determine when we're going to do it really. It's just, kind of in conjunction with other projects and when we have the money for it.
Okay, thank you. Did you have a follow-up? Okay. Please continue.
The next unfunded project is the decorative streetlights. So these would be similar to the streetlights that you'll see along Wooddale Road out front of City Hall that we put the wreath and the Christmas garland on. So those are the phases there. Those are the 3 areas that we had identified that could possibly, those could possibly go. But again, I think that's something that would be nice to have. And so that's something that we've been able to find funding for any of those areas at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
And then the last one is the parking lot at Central and Irving. I know this came up during the conversations of the water tower and intersection project. The determination at that point in time was to not do it then, but we put it here in unfunded just in case there was an appetite to construct that at some point in the future. If there's not an appetite to construct this at some point in the future, we can just take it out. If there's really no desire to, I guess, to ever do this project, we could just take it out if that's the direction, so.
Okay. Oh, Alderman Artie-Wood?
There is going to be some parking there, right, or we're going to have a shared parking agreement, or if I remember correctly, at the water tower we're talking about, right?
So, right?
The new water tower?
I can answer a little bit of that.
Mr. Murmas?
Are you asking specifically about the project sheet, like what that would have entailed, or are you asking current?
Like, I guess, is there a need to even is there going to be substantial parking with the situation as it is? Is there any need to revisit spending $600,000 on specific dedicated parking?
In the immediate future, no, but as you know, typically when we purchase land, we usually look, we could look 10, 20 years out.
Sure.
Part of the reason we purchased that, obviously water tower, but economic development on the southeast end of that intersection specifically. So we all know that on Irving Park Road, we do have a major problem with parking, parcels being too small. Obviously, lots need to be consolidated for better businesses. But in the future, perhaps it will be some sort of public-private partnership to make those properties have better parking. So I would anticipate we might revisit this in the future down the road, but in the immediate future, no, but it could sit out there for a while, perhaps.
Sure. And Public Works can access what they need to at the new location without that.
Yeah, so there'll be a access pad for us,
Right.
fenced in around the water tower, and then the rest will just be green space.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
That actually is it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Did you need anything? We're just discussing. You don't need any direction on this, Director Wilson?
Yeah, so typically the last number of years, it's just been general direction that we put this into the full budget, the full operating budget that you get in February, and then it all gets approved at that time. Some of you may recall that we used to approve the CIP itself by resolution and then put it in, then it would get approved as part of the budget, so it kind of seems like we're doing it twice. So typically what we'll do is we'll take the CIP document and then put the number, present it as amended. I don't think there are any amendments, but typically as amended in the full operating budget, and then it would just get approved at that time. So unless there's any changes or anything that's glaring, like I said, we'll take the feedback from tonight and prepare that and put that in the full operating budget for consideration in February.
Yeah, I think you made mention of a couple things that you were going to change as you were looking through it. So obviously, you'll make those changes. Mayor, please.
Yeah, and in the past, so sometimes at the budget, we've added, I've seen stuff the council add, and I've seen them take away. So this is just to give them the direction to move forward to set up that budget.
Correct.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the detailed explanation of everything leading up to the CIP and the document itself. So very well prepared. Appreciate that. Thank you. Next are items to be considered at future meetings. We have, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you, did we need direction? Or we were just discussing?
Do we need a motion, or is it? Yeah, just make a motion to proceed to the.
I'll make a motion to proceed with the CIP as
I thought
presented.
we just said we didn't need a motion.
Yeah, that's what, if you want a motion, I'll make a motion to proceed with the corrections that you noted.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, you have your direction?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Items to be considered at future meetings, water meter replacement on February 12th, the fiscal year 26, it'll be 27, budget, February 26th, City Hall bid, March 12th. Are there any other items anyone would like to add? There being none, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you so much.